love video games.
Austin here. HD remakes and remasters have been a really big part of the gaming industry for a long time now. A lot of opinions on this are a bit mixed, but without them, I wouldn't have been able to experience Odin Sphere. Is that Leifthrasir? Leifthrasir? I don't know.
Odin Sphere, if it's not immediately obvious, is a vanillaware game. You know, the people responsible for games like Muramasa, the Demon Blade, and Dragon's Crown. This is all thanks to artist and president George Kamitani's strikingly unique art style.
And by the way, they're both really good games.
Ultra colorful, yet completely different depending on which game we're playing. Himatanshi? What the fuck is this? Whether or not the game is up your alley, you can always expect visual perfection from the guys at Vanillaware. Be it the pointy, historically inspired aesthetic of Muramasa, or the sleek, smooth, oily, and
voluptuous bodies
of Dragon's Crown, you know you're gonna love it. But Odin Sphere was a much earlier effort from the studio. Coming up merely a month after their first title, Grim Grimoire, Odin Sphere seemed to merely amass a cult following. I finally got a chance to play the original recently, and, well, let's talk about that. Odin Sphere is an action beat-em-up RPG based in a world inspired by Norse mythology, hence the whole Odin thing. Hey buddy, how you doing? You control one of 5 characters, all of which have intersecting stories concerning warring factions that take place in the same chronological timeline. However, you only play as one character at a time through 7 chapters of their story before moving on to the next. You start the game out as Princess Gwyndolin, daughter of Odin, which serves as the intro to the mechanics. We've also got Cornelius, the prince-turned-beast, Mercedes, the fairy princess, Oswald, the Shadow Knight, and Velvet, the mysterious other princess. We got a lot of royalty here. Fucking peasants go home. Playing the game is a whole different story, because it's weird. Each character is given a magical weapon called a cipher that consumes phosons, basically life energy to perform special attacks. You hit the button to do the fightsies, but you have a stamina meter called POW that drains as you attack, severely limiting what the player can pull off and instead encouraging a more strategic approach to combat. Each character controls differently and has vastly different playstyles, all of varying speeds. While interesting, I don't really like it in execution. Combat feels very slow, and all of your special attacks are tied to a menu system. So you're constantly having to pause the game in order to select whatever the hell you want to do. Phosons are going to drop from enemies and occasionally butterflies that you can find around the map. You use your cipher to pull them in for usage, but the amount of things that they do may be a bit overwhelming. You see, Odin Sphere has a leveling up system, but each character actually has 2 different levels: overall level and cipher level. In order to increase the cipher level, you have to absorb phosons. In order to increase your overall level, you've got to eat food. And you do that by instead planting seeds and allowing the phosons to enter the plant and make them bloom. Then you'll get different types of berries that have multiple uses, ranging from alchemy, recovering HP, granting experience points, increasing HP, cooking, and it's complicated. It's really complicated. On top of this, combat in the PS2 version is subject to hella frame rate issues. When the group gets going and you're fighting fucking dragons, throwing out spells and potions, it's gonna drop. And when you've gotta micro all this shit and deal with the frames moving at a snail's pace, it just feels, well, a bit messy. Add in the fact that the original Odin Sphere is like a 60-70 hour long game, and, well, you'd better enjoy the story.
A lot of people love Odin Sphere, but some of the convoluted systems just weren't for me. It's certainly not my favorite Vanillaware game, but never in my life have I seen a game invalidate its source material as much as Odin Sphere Leifthrasir.
All you have to do is play this remake for 2 minutes to realize what happened. Much more than a visual upgrade and a remastered soundtrack, the new Odin Sphere is a completely different experience altogether. Well, not the story, that didn't change one bit, but the enhancements to the gameplay take Odin Sphere and lift it from okay in my books to a complete masterwork of a video game.
That's a bit strong.
Yeah, well, look at the damn difference! Okay, so check this out. The biggest change here is that the normal attacks do not consume the POW meter at all, and instead are used for special attacks. Phoson-based attacks still exist, but the cipher level is no longer a thing. Also, you no longer have to worry about balancing Phoson usage because you have a stockpile which can be used for farming. The Phoson-based attacks will just recharge a meter anytime you pick one up, independent from everything else. My favorite change, though, is the inclusion of customizable controls. Yeah. There are more abilities to be found in the remake, and each one can be set to an input command. Quarter circles, half circles, it doesn't matter. You no longer have to dig through the menus to use an ability. I mean, you could, but why? Now, on top of all of this, Vanillaware added new maps, new bosses, new items such as health potions, and all of these little things adding up to make Leifthrasir feel like a totally different game. Every chapter in Odin Sphere has several parts to it. In both, we're given many cutscenes to watch the grand story of Odin Sphere unfold before a resting period where you can access shops. New to the remake are cooking stations and rest areas. Oh, and the money system's not fucking dumb anymore. Next up is the gamey part of the game, where all of the action takes place. And this isn't one of those long-winded RPGs where you'll be sitting through repeated cutscenes interrupting the action. Nah, Odin Sphere gives you massive segments of gameplay. Different areas include platformy exploratory sections, resting sections, and of course, the beat-em-up sections. Now, in rest areas, you can play an entirely different game, essentially. During fighting sections, you'll collect seeds, food, and other alchemy materials. Like these cute-looking mandragoras. Look at them, they're so cute. Now kill them! And take them back to the rest area and get to crafting. As there's only one character level in the remake, all of your experience points are dictated by enemies slain and the food you eat, but mostly the eating. You can grow different types of seeds to eat individually, or eventually unlock Mari the Chef to whip up recipes you find on your travels. Eating is going to be your main method of leveling up, so get ready for the food porn. This is way more streamlined than the original game, where you'd have to leave the current level in order to cook anything. There's no tedium, no big breaks from the action causing you to lose all of your progress in an area, just fun and stuff. Rather than using phosons to level up your ciphers, phosons can be stockpiled and used to grow plants and now upgrade skills that you unlock. There's a whole different tree for each character, and you can develop them based on your own personal playstyle. There's also a newly introduced ability tree that'll provide you with a bunch of passive upgrades. It's fucking awesome. Each skill unlocked and ability found adds so many more options to the way you approach combat, especially now with the sexy input commands. Also new to combat is the ability to use the R1 button to dodge roll, or even cancel abilities in the middle of using them. So when you compare this to the original game, there's hardly a competition. You can tell that Kamitani and the team at Vanillaware took a lot of inspiration from their later games like Dragon's Crown. Now, despite all these changes, Odin Sphere is still a long game. I clocked in at about 45 hours for my complete playthrough, never minding the New Game Plus feature. And this right here is one of my two major problems with Odin Sphere. While the remake is significantly easier to beat than the original, there are segments where it might become a bit repetitive to players. When I finished Gwendolyn's campaign, I was worried that starting a new character would burn me out slightly. However, each of the 5 characters controls so vastly different from the other that wasn't the case. Unlike the first game, everything is sped up to the point where they feel like new characters altogether. Gwen is a Valkyrie and uses a lot of air control and ice elemental attacks to control the field. The second character, Cornelius, is really fucking fast and uses a lot of AoE type attacks to throw enemies around. Considering each character takes about 6 to 9 hours of game time to complete their story, this might feel like a lot of time invested to have to go back to the first level again, essentially starting up a new game. But then, I started Mercedes, and guess what? It's fucking Metal Slug! Like, boom, here, try something different! You're playing a shooter now! Time for Oswald? Have a Berserk and Rage system! Make your way to Velvet, and try setting traps and catching everyone on fire! With all of the customizable skills you get, the player is essentially creating 5 different characters to really fucking learn inside out. All of the characters do feel similar to the way that they did in the original, but, well, without a menu system to worry about, things move at a lightning pace. Learning this game is a lot of fun, as it's 90% just raw gameplay. But with 5 characters, 5 viewpoints, and 5 different takes on the same conflict comes repeating bosses. And this is a major drag. Even though Leifthrasir added new bosses, you'll still be fighting bosses multiple times, sometimes more than once on the same character. I realize the chore of making new beautifully drawn sprites and designing a boss fight around it is a massive task, but when you have what is essentially a 40 to 50 hour beat 'em up, there's gonna be some fatigue.
No matter how well designed your combat is, how fantastic the score is, or how gorgeous the game looks, repetition can be a buzzkill. Thankfully, with everything I've mentioned so far wrapped up in a really thought-provoking story, Odin Sphere delivers.
Warring factions isn't a new concept. Neither are end-of-the-world scenarios. But the way Odin Sphere presents itself as a package is outstanding. It's a tale of multiple love stories, struggling with identity. For the player, it's a story about attempting to understand what is good and what is evil. You'll fall in love with a main or side character in one chapter and despise them from another point of view. You'll understand motives more, and then be upset for something that you did in another chapter. Certain moments will completely shock you and then appear like the obvious choice based on the perspective. The lore and notes you find in-game surrounding the world are absolutely absolutely massive and only serve to deepen the history of the world of Ragnarok. And all of this is seen through the lens of Alice, a young girl reading books in her attic with her cute kitty Socrates. Yeah, what the fuck? Because of the way this is set up, you can actually see the chronological order in which everything takes place. So if the story gets confusing, you can see exactly where things line up and even view cinematics again. There's even a chronological mode where you can watch the entire story if you've got like 5 fucking hours to spare. But with a good dub and multi-language audio options, that's not so bad. Once you beat all 5 of the main character stories, a 6th chapter appears called Armageddon, and well, I'll let you guys get to that because you need to play Odin Sphere Leifthrasir. Overall, Odin Sphere is one of those games where you can obviously tell that heart and soul was poured generously into it. Everything from the presentation to the way that the American Storybook Edition looks. Taking a look at the art book, you'll see quotes from Kamitani and Kentaro Onishi, basically saying that when Atlas gave them the opportunity to remake Odin Sphere, they gave it their all. From a team lacking in experience to what I'd consider a masterwork, everything about this just screams passion. As I've said before, it's weird to me that a remake could trump the original in a manner that surpasses it in every way, from a repetitive, well-polished mess to one of my favorites. This makes me want to see more remakes and remasters of the sort, like what Mario All-Stars did to Super Mario Bros. 1-3 or the PSP with Final Fantasy IV. Let us see classics in a new light. Essentially, all I'm getting at is that you should play Odin Sphere. Go on, go play Odin Sphere. Play it. Come on, play the game. Play Odin Sphere! Or you could just play the original because it comes with the game. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Please do yourself a favor and give this game a shot, cause it's pretty good. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and check out some of the other videos we got, and I will see you next time.